Welcome back to the live morning show presented by Don Bullock Chevrolet. We're honored to have John Kearney and Jerry Spruell with us from the Nash County Board of Elections. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
It's Edgecombe County. Nash and Edgecombe. I apologize.
Yes, sir.
We're going to talk a little bit today about the upcoming primary election, but we're going to address this from a more basic standpoint about the role that the Board of Elections has in the process and some of the things that we can expect, voters can expect, as we walk into the primary election coming forward. So let me just start, gentlemen. Overall, what does the Board of Elections do? What are its responsibilities?
Well, we first start with voter registration. That's very important, making sure that every citizen has the right to vote, and they have to be registered in order to vote. Unless they're going to come early to vote, then they can register and vote at an early vote site.
Okay.
I guess the main thing is we facilitate the elections across the county. Some states are different, and it used to be different in North Carolina 20 years ago, where municipalities had their own boards of elections, and then the state legislature done away with that and put all of it under the county boards of elections. So we facilitate every election in the county, depending on even year, odd year, what that schedule is.
I'm just curious, how long does it take to facilitate, say for example, the primary that's coming up? When do you start planning for something like that?
Well, you want to take that, Jerry?
Well, we filing started in December.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And right after we finished the November election with the municipalities, we started filing in December the 4th, I believe it was, somewhere around there. And it's ongoing from that point right on to the primary. And as well, if there'll be a second primary, we'll be continuing working in that right until May, and then we start the process for November.
So it really is a year-round process.
Yes, sir.
It runs right into that.
Yes, sir.
When is the primary election this year?
March 4th.
March 4th.
I'm sorry, March 5th.
Tuesday, March 5th.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
From the standpoint of who people can vote for, the ballot is set for the primary election. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Yes. So it's too late for someone to want to add their name to it.
Correct.
Yes.
Is there a write-in possibility that could happen during the primary election?
There's no write-ins in the primary.
Okay.
No write-ins in the primary. There's certain write-ins in the November election. I don't remember which offices it is. Certain ones require write-ins. I think there is a no preference on the primary ballot for president. That's the only blank spot that's there. But there's some in November, especially school board. Nigeria has school board in the primary. Unaffiliated allows for write-ins,
Okay.
but not partisan primaries. And in Nash County, we don't have any unaffiliated ballots, and we don't have any Green Party. We don't have any no labels. So you have to vote in a Democratic, Libertarian, or Republican primary if you're going to vote in March in Nash County.
Gentlemen, if someone is registered as an independent or registered as something other than Republican and Democrat, can they participate in the upcoming primary election?
Yes, they can. If they don't have a candidate, they can vote Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian, because those are the candidates on the ballot, and those are the officers that are on the ballot. And so, yes, they could vote, but they don't have, unaffiliated does not have a candidate at this particular time.
So let me take that a step further. Mm-hmm. Someone is a libertarian. Mm-hmm. There's only Democrat and Republican on the ballot at this point. That person.
No, there's Libertarian on the ballot. I'm sorry.
Green Party would be a good example if you want to use the scenario.
Green Party.
Mm-hmm.
That person's registered Green Party. They walk up to the polling place. They stand in front, and then they say, "I'm a Green Party. I'm a member of the Green Party." At that point, do they have to tell which party they want to vote in at that point?
Well, in this particular primary, if you're registered as a Green Party or no labels, you cannot participate.
You cannot participate.
Because if you're a member of a party, you have to vote in your party's primary. The only people who get to choose are unaffiliated voters. They can choose.
So if it's the unaffiliated,
and they have to tell. When an unaffiliated voter comes up, they have to say how they want to vote.
And you'll be at that point, if they say I want a Republican or a Democratic ballot, they'll be given a Republican or Democratic ballot.
Absolutely,
that's correct.
Okay. Now, that's different in the general election?
Well, the general election, everybody gets the same ballot.
That's
okay.
Right.
You don't get Republican, Democrat. Everybody gets the same ballot depending on where you live and what your address is. You get that ballot for that area.
Absolutely.
As we start thinking about March 5th being here, which it'll be here before we realize it, is there an early voting procedure for the primary election?
Yes, early voting started February the 15th.
Okay.
The hours of operation are set pretty much by the state legislators. And hours of operation is from 8 o'clock a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. We have elected to two Saturdays from 8 to 3 p.m., both for Kearney, Nash, and Edgecombe. And we tried to coincide to be equally fair for the citizens of Rocky Mount and other surrounding counties.
And where is early voting taking place in Nash and Edgecombe County?
Well, in Edgecombe, we are at the Carmen Auditorium at 201 St. Andrew Street, which is the administrative building.
Yes, sir.
And we're also at 301 South Fairview over at the social service building.
Yes, sir.
And hours of operation are the same at both sites.
Well, in Nash, we have our two typical sites, Braswell Library here in Rocky Mount, and then the Ag Center in Nashville.
If someone votes early, what happens to their ballots once they cast a vote? Are they counted at that point, or do you wait until the actual primary to count those ballots?
Well, they feed the ballot into the machine. So the machine is tabulating every time a ballot goes in. But those machines are not closed. The polls are not closed on that machine until election day, and that's done by
Okay.
the board members themselves.
Okay.
So when they close the machines, we have our meeting, then the results are tallied up, and they're fed into our system. We actually go ahead and upload them to the state board system, but they don't put them out till 7:30, because by law you can't release those results till 7:30.
What has been the percentage of people that have voted early in years past?
Every election is different. You know, you can't compare apples and oranges. You talk about a municipal election, you're talking about a presidential primary, you're talking about a presidential general, or even a midterm. They all vary. I would say usually for us, 50 to 60% of the turnout is early.
Okay.
And again, that varies. It just depends on the election.
I agree, but generally we find that in the last years past that early voting, there's a majority of people voting early versus election day, percentage-wise.
Do you think that's because some people just don't want to feel like they want to stand in line on general election day or primary election day, or they've made up their mind and they just want to go ahead and cast the vote and be done with it?
I would think it's convenience.
Right.
You know, again, you have almost 17 days, and you have this year, you're going to have 11 and a half hours to be able to show up and vote during the week. So there's plenty of time for you to come, versus if you wait to one day, you don't know what's going to happen. You could have a snowstorm on March 5th. You could have an ice storm. You could have death in the family. You just don't know. So why wait? Go ahead and get it done.
This will be the second election that we've had that the new voter ID law has been in place for North Carolina. Can you tell us a little bit about what type of identification people will need to bring with them to the polls?
Well, this is really the third one.
Okay.
We've had one in 19, I believe, that we did ID.
The primary, I think it was 18 primaries at
18,
one
okay.
time, then it
Okay.
threw it out.
And then, so this past municipal elections, we did use ID.
Yes, sir.
And of course, you know, it's in effect going forward until if anything changes. But right now, it's in effect. And we really haven't had any difficulties with that at this point in time. You know, this is the law, so you have to follow the procedures.
I would say, yeah, the turnout, the municipal elections, 99.9% of the people had their driver license or passport or military ID on, so it was not an issue. There was a couple that came in. One person I remember forgot their ID, so they were going to go back home and get it. And then there were a couple people that didn't have one, so there's always there's an exceptions to the rule. Depending on what the exception is, you can sign a document and vote a provisional ballot.
Yes, sir.
If you don't have one. But for the vast majority, it wasn't an issue that we saw.
And most of the time, we want to make sure that the voter can vote somehow.
And I think that's what people would remember with the new with the voter ID law, is that this is the polls are there to try and help you vote. If the people that are working there, if they can find a way to legally let you vote and you can legally vote, they'll find a way to help you do that.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's the overall goal.
Yeah, we're not there to try to not let you vote.
Right.
That's not what they're there for. They're there to help you vote if at all possible. And again, we always have a provisional as a backup if we have to do that, but we'll try to vote you a normal ballot if we can.
You mentioned address, so let me just pose this to you. Somebody walks up to the registration table. Their ID says one address. What's on the rolls is another address. They've moved. They perhaps neglected to inform the Board of Elections of a change of address. What happens at that point?
Well, the address on the photo ID means nothing.
Okay.
You're not looking at the address on the photo ID whatsoever. Now, if they have moved, now again, it depends on if it's early voting or election day. If it's early voting, we just change the address, print you the ballot, or give you the ballot that you require it goes to that new address. Election day, you really need to change your address before election day. If you wait till election day to do it, if you go to the new precinct or old precinct, you may have to go back to the other one to get the appropriate paperwork, because the computers don't communicate to the different precincts.
Right.
So if you show up at your old precinct but yet you've moved, then we're going to ask you to go to the new one. We're going to give you the paperwork and send you to the new one. If you won't go, then it's a provisional ballot. And the same thing with the if you go to the new precinct, we're going to ask you to go back to the old precinct and get the paperwork, or it's a provisional ballot. That's the only way we can keep you from voting twice, is we need that paperwork from the old precinct.
Absolutely.
Understood. What is the process to change your address with the Board of Elections so that you have the proper address on the rolls? How do you do that?
It's just a new voter registration
right.
form. Same form,
That-
do the form over.
Right.
Can you access that online?
Yes.
Yes. And it's not automatically done. If you buy a new house, because there's not an automatic situation that notifies
They
the
have to
people.
change the
Right.
address.
It's never automatic.
Right.
Now, what we hear all the time is, I went to DMV and I changed my address.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't automatically happen either. When you go to DMV, you get your driver license and you can update your voter registration or register to vote at DMV, but it's a different document. You have to sign a separate document. You have to tell them that you want to do that. Just because you change it on the driver license doesn't mean it's coming to us.
I think, you know, that's a really good point, because I do remember that when you change your driver's license, or you renew it, or you change it, get a duplicate one, it does ask you about that, but it doesn't go over. What happens if someone comes in, they get a ballot, they go to the stall to vote, and they make a mistake? What happens at that point?
The voter is eligible to receive under the additional ballot. They can get another ballot.
They just take that one back
But
to...
yes, they cannot keep that ballot. They have to bring it back, and we will void that ballot and give them another one.
The ballots are numbered, is that correct? Or
Well, no.
No, they're not numbered. And again, this is a difference between early
Right,
voting and
right.
election day.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, state law requires early voting ballot and absentee ballots to be retrievable.
right.
So there are numbers on those ballots when you do early voting.
Okay.
Because if you were to die before election day or some other issue comes up, then we have to, look at retrieving that ballot. So they have to be retrievable. But at election day, they're completely anonymous. Once it goes in that machine, I couldn't tell you, don't know that ballot from any other ballot in there.
That's correct.
There's nothing that ties that ballot to you or anything else.
If somebody wants to make a change to their party affiliation, or they'll make a change to a party affiliation, is that something that can be done at the time of election, or does that need to be done prior to walking up to the polling place to cast a ballot?
That's very important, especially
Yes,
in the
it is.
primary. It happens every time.
Yes.
So the deadline to change your affiliation for the primary election is February 9th, 5 p.m.
Okay.
That's the end of registration for March 5th. You cannot change your party affiliation at early voting. If you show up at early voting and you want to vote a different party than what you are, you have to vote a provisional ballot. And by law, you can't do that. So
Okay.
the chances of it getting approved are slim.
likely.
So if you want to change your party, now is the time. If you wait past February 9th, you will not be allowed to do so.
How about for the general election?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Everybody votes the same ballot in the general election.
Gentlemen, it seems like the underlying theme that we've talked about today is that voting is a right, and there's a responsibility the voters have too, a responsibility to get your address changed within the system. And if you want to make a change, for example, for party affiliation for a reason like that, to understand when the dates are that you can do that, or by your inaction or lack of knowledge of the system, it could make it difficult for your vote to count during that period. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
It is very fair.
It is.
Yes. And plus, we try to put information on our websites to kind of help the voter to understand where the timelines are and what they need to do.
Right. The information is out there. Again, on website, state board website. You just have to, you can Google it, and it pulls right up. I mean, if you've got any questions, pick up the phone, call us.
If our time goes so fast on these interviews that we're almost out, but I want to ask you this. If our conversation today has sparked any interest in someone that is watching us, and they say, I'd like to learn more about the process, or perhaps participate in the process to be a volunteer or to work with the Board of Elections on the polling days, how would someone go about doing that?
Well, they can call the office, Jerry Spruell, Edgecombe County Board of Elections. The number is 252-641-7852, and then we will start that process from there. Or there's some forms online that they could fill out if they were interested in being a participant in the voting election process.
Yeah, ours is a little different. Everybody for us goes through our website. So you go to Nash County Board of Election website, go to poll workers. There's an online application. It goes through our system. We'll call you up, talk to you, give you a few questions, see who you are, and then we'll put you in our system. So you got to go through our website for us.
And there's the people that work at the polls have training that they go through to prepare them for election day, whether it's a primary or a general election. Right?
Absolutely, yes, we do, sir. We do give them training, and we want to make sure that they have the information correct to give to the citizens, so that it makes it task a little easier. Yes, sir.
And there are officials at every precinct in terms of someone that is an experienced official that is there to answer questions and to help voters if there are issues that arise.
Yeah, there's a chief judge and 2 judges at every location, election day, and now early voting too, with the new law that changed by the legislature this past year. So yes.
We talked about this off air. I'll end with this question. John, you had a very interesting comment. I asked you your gentlemen's thoughts about making Election Day a national holiday. You had a different perspective on that.
Well, I don't know, for us, I don't think it's as important to be a national holiday, but for everybody who's in our position, what it would be is the legislature make it a school holiday, because we have a hard time finding polling places. People think, well, you can just go over here and work and have a polling place there. It's not that simple. The facility's got to let you in. It's got to be ADA compliant. Yes. Where is it located at? But there's schools everywhere, and a lot of counties use more schools than we do. We use 1. I think Jerry has 4 schools.
Yes.
But schools are widely available. But I don't like using schools because of security issues, things like that. I'd really just stay away from the school. But if it was a school holiday, then every county board of elections would have a lot more accessible polling places to freely use.
Absolutely.
So I wish the legislature would take that up.
And I would imagine that would make a difference in both setup and tear down, because the polls open very early in the morning, so you need access to the polling place the day before at the very earliest or very latest to be able to set the polling place up, and then it has to come down after the polls close.
Absolutely. And right now, like at Nash Central High, we're using auxiliary gym. We're taking it to the gym for a whole day, or a day and a half, because again, we have to set up on Monday afternoon. If there was no school, it wouldn't be an issue. It wouldn't affect the teachers or the coaches or anything like that. So it's a benefit for both sides, and we're only talking a couple of days in even numbered years. I don't think they would do it for municipals in odd years, because that varies a little bit depending on what county you're in. But for even numbered years like this year, we know we're going to have a primary. We know we're going to have a November election. And I can about guarantee you we're going to have a second primary in May, looking at the ballot.
I think I would agree with you along those lines, too. John Kearney, Jerry Spruell, thank you both for being here. Thanks for the information. This is valuable information that people should keep in mind to make sure that they are prepared to be able to go in and cast a vote, and the different ways to do it. I'd like to ask you, gentlemen, if you would come back before the general election so that we can continue this conversation and just give people a refresher and a primer on how to most effectively participate in the general election, if you're willing to do that.
More than happy to.
Sure.
Pleasure to meet you, sir. Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for coming.
Okay.
You've been watching the live morning show presented by Don Bullock Chevrolet. We're going to step aside right now for this next commercial messages, and then we'll have our last look at weather, and Wayne and I will be back to wrap things up. We'll be right back.